Okay, here we are, day 2. And just a fair warning, there is a cat who wants to get in here and eat the plants. I'm not going to let her in here. So, in case you hear anyone yelling at the door, that's it. So, I did kind of jot down some notes for this one because there was so much that I want to say. And I was also kind of planning out like some of my protocols that I'm going to try on. I didn't really do anything different yesterday on day 1, which was actually probably a good thing because it not that I didn't already know this, but it was a good sort of baseline of seeing how I feel when I engage in some of these behaviors and patterns that are just soul sucking for me, that just make this whole thing feel worse. So, part of it for me, like, well, the big things I'm going to be focusing on during this first week are boundaries with technology and decluttering my psychological backpack. So I'll get into what I mean by that. But with the technology thing, some of you I'm sure relate to this. Like, for me, it's not even occasionally I get into the over scrolling on social media kind of thing and everything that comes along with that. But more so, it's this just compulsive checking, whether it's of email or just like, oh, what do I must need to pick up the phone for some reason and finding something to look for, right? Just having it within reach. And there was a study that I heard about that um, someone called it like the iPhone effect, but basically the idea that even just having your smartphone out, even just having it visible in the room anywhere, even if it's like face down across the table from you, but you know it's there, having it visible prevents you from being truly present with the person or people that you're with, which I totally get that. And I'm sure a lot of you are nodding your heads too. Um, so I've tried different things to kind of combat that compulsiveness. And but any time that I kind of slack on the boundaries, it happens without fail. And I think that it's important to acknowledge, like, and for anyone who saw The Social Dilemma or understands like the whole modern technology thing, it's like, yeah, it's working as it's designed, right? So just our brains are not intended for that kind of stimulation. And a big part of this whole thing for me is overstimulation, overconsumption of information, or what there was a podcast called Note to Self. I haven't listened to it in a long time. I think it's now on Luminary or one of those like premium podcast networks. But the host, Manoush Zomorodi, who wrote a book called Bored and Brilliant, which is also great, she calls it infomania, and that resonates so much with me. And she talks about like getting to that place where we can experience it as info magical instead, and we really have to combat that over consumption. For me, what I mean by like the psychological backpack piece is allowing this content to accumulate to the point where I'm always feeling the weight of it there, always feeling behind, always like, oh, great, another article to save in my Instapaper that I'm never going to read because it's so full that the idea of opening it and scrolling through these dozens of articles feels paralyzing. But I'll just save it there anyway, so I can be overwhelmed knowing that there's all these articles there that I'm supposed to read. Same thing with podcast episodes. And especially during the pandemic, I've not been in the car very much, where I normally have like an hour a day that I'm listening to podcasts or audiobooks, and those podcasts have just built and built. And every now and then I have this like guilt weighing on me, and I just have to clear them out. So I'm a big declutterer and a big believer in decluttering in the physical space, in the digital space, in the mental space. And I do think that's important. I think that especially for folks whose brains work like mine, having that clutter is just, oh, I'm allergic to it. And same thing goes, like I said, with technology. Like I clean out my photos, I don't have anything on my desktop. I don't let email. I'm like obsessively inbox zero kind of thing. And that's a good thing, but also can become compulsive in and of itself. And then I'm a cat chasing its tail, constantly trying to stay on top of all the things. And then you're falling into that whole trap of always doing what feels urgent rather than actually doing the things that move the needle, actually doing the things that enrich your life and make you grow and progress you on your goals. So that is a frustration of mine. It's like, how do I balance that need for the clean slate kind of feeling without it having to be so compulsive that I'm constantly then checking so I can delete it, checking so I can clear it out. So anyway, I'm going to get into some of the things that are going to support me with that I'm going to try. And so, like I said, this first week, I'm really focusing on the boundaries with technology and decluttering the psychological backpack, getting out of infomania. And I'm going to wait to add on some other pieces until the following week so I can kind of settle into some of these changes. And then say I'll have a week where I'm focusing on like trying because a lot of times I mentioned this in the first video of like a little anxiety, like herbal supplement thing. Um, and I've tried different things here and there. Some of the, what do they call it? Nootropics, no tropics. Anyway, kind of the herbal supplements that are intended for helping our minds to function a little differently. And I've never taken them consistently enough to know if they actually help. So that will be, at least for 1 week, I will aim to really identify one that seems really strong, whether it's a blend or it's, ashwagandha, ginkgo biloba, whatever. And I'll aim to take that really consistently so that I can be documenting, does this seem to help, in addition to maintaining the practices that I've already started. So we'll get there. Okay, so let me hit my bullet points here. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say before I jump into that about my kind of baseline experience yesterday. So it was that same thing. Like, it wasn't even one of the most out of control days that I've had with the kind of compulsive checking and all of that, but it was enough. And I felt so agitated in the evening. Like, my poor husband, I'm just sitting there on the couch like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And like, I didn't want to just sit and watch something else on TV, but I knew that I didn't want to go into work mode again because then I would just probably work for hours, but I didn't know how to just sit without being productive or without going into the goose state of just total paralysis. Again, you probably know what I'm talking about, many of you watching this. Eventually, about half an hour after I should have employed it, I used Mel Robbins' 5-second rule principle, which if you haven't seen her big famous TED Talk from years ago, that then later became the premise of her book, The 5-Second Rule. It's excellent. Basically, it's just sort of the idea of like, okay, all right, I'm going to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. And I identified, I'm going to do 3 things. Don't even know what they are yet. First thing, I'm going to go change into my sleep clothes. Okay, second thing, I'm going to scoop the litter. Just, do the next right thing, as they often say in the recovery rooms. And then I felt so much better after I had done just a few things. My whole attitude shifted. And I was like, okay, note to self, the whole tech boundaries thing is going to be super critical. Okay, so when my phone is not actually in use actively, I'm going to put it in designated containers. This is something I've flirted with, but have never committed to, probably for even a whole day. So this whole first week, and of course my goal is to make this a long-term habit change, but really committing to that change this first week, seeing how it feels. So right now, my phone is in a little wooden box on my altar behind me. There's another wooden box in the main area of the house where it will go. It has somewhere that it can go in the top of my dresser where I'll still be able to hear the alarm, and also no phone use in bed unless I am setting the alarm or turning music on or off. So that feels really good. Even just today, it's like the middle of the afternoon, I can already feel the difference of noticing those times where I've had like a moment of downtime, or a moment of, I'm curious about that. I should look that up. And knowing that'll probably, what normally would happen, take me into a 15-minute rabbit hole on the phone that just leaves me feeling kind of rattled, and not having that, being like, oh, nope, it's in the box. Does it need to come out of the box? No. All right, well, maybe I'll remember to look that thing up later if it's important. So it's felt really good. I'm like, ooh, I'm rewiring. It's happening after 10 minutes. Okay. Computer, maximum of 2 windows with 2 tabs each. there's this whole principle I've come across called Tablets Tuesdays. And once I was like, oh, I should totally do that. But like, what the fuck is it going to do one day a week having no tabs? I would love to be able to commit to this. This feels realistic for me. I think there are times where bouncing between two tabs, like, feels really useful if I'm doing like budgeting and I need both things open. But I have very much been one of those people who has 15 tabs open in one browser and then another minimized browser with 5 tabs and 2 other minimized browsers. And they kind of represent all of these open tasks that I have, all these open loops. The psychological weight of that, of knowing there's like 5 open loops minimized, it's making me sweat right now. So 2 windows with 2 tabs each, totally doable. I know I'm going to be the only one to hold myself accountable for that though. So I will plan on checking in on how that's going on each of these videos, especially during the first week. Okay, email. I don't have an email app on my phone. Of course, the unfortunate thing, you can't delete your browser from your smartphone. So if occasionally, because sometimes you're out and about and you like have to pull up an email to find a thing that you need for that thing that you're out and about for, and it's useful. So to be able to pull it up in the browser, but I also don't like using email that way. It's clunky on the browser. So it's a good incentive to remove and keep the email app away from my phone. And I also only this is something I've done in little bits over the past couple months, but I've not stayed committed to it for more than like a week at a time. I cheated a lot, but checking email twice on Mondays, twice on Thursdays, that is it, unless there is truly an important need, like I am expecting an email back on something that is time sensitive. I have to pull up a ticket for something. If I'm going in with a specific purpose, otherwise checking it twice on Mondays, twice on Thursdays. Originally, I was like, oh, I'll just check it on Mondays and Thursdays, and I would check it all day long. So I had to kind of set that additional boundary. Another thing I've done with my phone in the past, which some of y'all are being like, wow, that's really extreme. I think it's setting up here, but I haven't used it in days. I got this little iPod Touch, and at one point I took off almost all the apps on my iPhone and I just had them on the iPod Touch. And so I could only use them when I had Wi-Fi. I would turn it on and then turn it off when I was done using it. Of course, the screen is small and that makes it a little tricky typing when you're used to the bigger screens now. But I've gone on and off of that. So sometimes I feel like it's helpful and then sometimes I'll like re-download Instagram on my phone because I'm like, it's just so much easier and I want to do a story while I'm walking down the street. So whatever, but that's just something that if you're interested, I know it works for other people. I originally heard that from Charlie Gilkey, the author of Start Finishing. It's actually a wonderful book, and it was $0 on the Kindle version very recently. So not sure if that's still the case, but if it is, download it. It's so good. Okay, so email, not on the phone, checking it twice Monday, twice Thursday. And if you've exchanged emails with me much in recent months, you might have seen in my email signature, I have a like bold starred response time, tells people when I check my email, and that, use the number below, text or call the number below if it's more urgent. And I also have an auto reply set up, which I had taken the auto reply off because I was like, oh, this is gonna be annoying. Who cares, right? If you're really annoyed by that, like, sorry, I don't really care. It helps keep me more accountable because I'm like, well, if people are seeing that auto response and then I'm still responding quickly, immediately every time, like, they're like, oh, well, she doesn't even respect that boundary. So like I said, I haven't been very good about respecting it, but that is part of what I'm recommitting to right now. And it really, on the rare days and weeks where I've truly done that, it's been a game changer because I manage 4 different inboxes. And like I said, I have this got to keep it at 0 kind of thing. So I'm constantly checking it and getting that like dopamine hit of like, ooh, I get to delete these. Ooh, here's one that's like I'm actually going to have to respond to. Sweating. Okay. Podcasts. Like I said, I let them build up. It feels so heavy, even though they're supposed to be fun. There's just so many. And it's one of those things where I have to recognize that, yes, it's a FOMO thing, right? And there's so much good content. There's just no way I'm going to listen to a fraction of it. So being able to say, I'm going to unsubscribe to some, and sometimes I'll end up resubscribing to those, but then I just go through phases where I'm like, no, I got to listen to this and this and this. And it's just too much. It's just totally unrealistic. And it gets me into that infomania place. So this morning, I deleted like over 70 podcasts, which isn't even a lot when from times I've done it in the past. I'd cleaned it out recently. So that was like when you like clean out your closet and you take the stuff to Goodwill. This was like the third round of that. So I cleaned it down to 15, but I'm going to say I'm going to get it down to 10, and then I'm not going to have any more than 10 unlistened episodes. If there's more, I have to choose which ones and delete the rest, which ones I'm going to listen to. Let's see, books. What does that say? I can't read my own handwriting. Kindle books. Okay, so maximum of 5 downloaded on my Kindle. And it's still like, I'm seeing, because you can click download it and then you can click all, and it's just like, ooh, I can see all these books. They're so tempting. But I went through, because some reason I got my new Kindle Fire a couple months ago, and I downloaded like 30 of my books onto it that I had gotten like super cheap or have been on my bookshelf for a while that I haven't read. And that was overwhelming. So I got it down to 5, which might sound like a lot, but that was I kept like, again, having to, okay, no, I can do more. I can always re-download them. So I'm going to have maximum of 5 downloaded. And then books in general, so counting Kindle books or print books, my goal is to have only on every Sunday when I'm doing my plan for the week ahead, I'm going to identify the 2 books that I'm going to be reading that week. Plus, I'm going to have a bedtime book that is just my one bedtime book until that book is done. Because when you're in bed, like sometimes you're just not in the mood to read certain kinds of things or certain, educational stuff or a fiction book that kind of like is intense. So I want to have one bedtime book, and that way I'm not making a decision of which book am I going to read? Like it's already been decided. This is the bedtime book until it is done. Then I choose a new one, something that is lighthearted or feels good to read before bed. So otherwise, 2 books during the week. That way I can kind of choose like a fiction and a nonfiction or 2 different nonfiction books. And then the next week, even if I'm not done with those 2, if I need a change of pace, I could pick 2 different ones, or I could change one of them out. But that way I'm only reading 2 at a time for at least the span of a given week. That is already asking a lot of myself, but I think it'll be really, really useful. Because if I could tell you guys, like, again, I'm hoping some of you relate to this madness. During an average week, I probably bounce around between 20 books, like a little bit of audiobook on this one, a little bit of Kindle on this one, a little bit of reading here, a little bit of reading here. It's maddening. Infomania. Okay, so 2 books. And then audiobooks will be, I might be giving myself too much leeway here. Maximum 5 downloaded, because again, I have just a lot on my shelf on the library books and Audible and Libro FM. I still have unread books on all of them, but I'm going to delete all but 2 audiobooks. These are allowed to be different from my book books because sometimes you just don't have the same one on both formats. So I will have 2 audiobooks. What did I say? 5 downloaded, 2 a week max. Because again, sometimes you're just not in the mood. You're driving around and you're like, oh, that one book I was listening to, I'm not in the mood for fiction. So 2 a week max, same on the book rule. Delete all the other downloads. And let's see, courses. This is another big one for me. So I'll be in a lot of courses at any given time, like professional development, personal development, ones that I have bought in the past and never finished. If you are an online course person, you know the course graveyard. At one point I made a whole list of them so that I sort of had at a glance, like, okay, so I don't lose them. Like here they are, here's where their links are. And of course, my goal right now is to really not be buying any more online courses unless it's something that's really, really, really important, really supports my goals. And I already just have so many that I could spend 2 years probably going through that content alone. So I'm going to, if there's one that's active, like live, like happening now, and I have to, for instance, the heart math course I'm in right now, if I have to watch this hour-long video and then I have to go to the live class for an hour a week, I will do that. I will stay caught up on the live content. And then if I still have time during the week and want to be working on another course, I have to stick with one of the courses for the whole week. And then the next week I can bounce to a different one if I want to. That I think will really help me, because it kind of relates to this feeling that when I did a hypnotherapy session and I was trying to describe what this experience is like for me, I said, oh, my screen just died. Please tell me this has been recording. Yes, it has been. I said the video was going to be shorter than 20 minutes. This one is long, but I think this is a really big overview thing. So again, I don't think they will normally be this long. This is all just really important for me. I know I'm going really granular. Some of you are going to hate that. Some of you are going to love it. Okay. But I was trying to explain this feeling, and he was like, it sounds like you're always feeling like you're running late for a meeting that doesn't exist. And I was like, holy shit, yes, that is exactly the feeling. And so having all of these courses, all of these podcasts, articles, books, all of these things weighing in my psychological backpack, get that shit out of there, declutter it. And so for the courses, this is going to be so helpful to know that for this week, if I've got an active course, do what I need to do on that, number one. If I have any other time to dedicate to a course, it is only on one. And then I can change that the next week if I want to when I'm doing my Sunday week planning. So those are my focuses. One other thing, Insight Timer meditations. I am a premium member, and so they have courses on there too. And then I'm like, ooh, this course sounds excellent. Ooh, this course sounds excellent. So then I have seven courses that I've gone through 2 days of each. So I'm going to delete all of those. I have access to all of them anyway, the whole time I'm a premium member, which I may drop that anyway when it runs out. And so my goal, since I'm not wanting to change too many variables at once, I thought about, I should go back to transcendental meditation twice a day and have that be my practice. I don't want to do that when I'm focusing on all this tech boundary stuff. So I'm just going to continue whatever meditation. I'm not going to put any pressure on myself for it to be a certain kind of thing. The only kind of limitation, I'm going to shoot for about 20 minutes a day still, but it can be any kind as long as it takes me less than 1 minute to decide on what it is. I am not allowed to sit on the app, take more than 1 minute to choose my practice. I choose it and it's done. Whether it's just sitting in silence or with a little music or doing a guided practice, I choose it in less than 1 minute. I do the practice and it's done. So later I might explore some more regimented like TM or passage meditation again, which I've kind of flirted with both of those. So, all right, this is even longer than yesterday, but I feel so good putting all of this out there, and hopefully it's helpful to you. Let's get out of infomania and move to info magical, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.